My name is Emily Carter, and for most of my life, I've considered myself an overly cautious person. I'm the type who checks the locks twice before bed, who keeps a baseball bat near the nightstand, and who double-checks the stove before leaving home. I used to think nothing bad could happen if you were just careful enough. That was before the night I forgot to close my door. It happened last spring, on a quiet Friday night that should have been like any other. I'd just turned 30, recently divorced, and was living alone for the first time in years. My little one-bedroom house sat at the edge of a small town in Oregon, surrounded by woods and the kind of silence that feels comforting during the day, but can turn eerily hollow once the sun goes down. That night, I stayed up late watching a movie. I remember because it was just past midnight when I realized I was getting sleepy. I turned off the TV, put my cup in the sink, and walked toward the hallway where my bedroom was. The kitchen door, an old wooden one that led to the backyard, was cracked open slightly to let the night breeze in. It was something I often did while cooking to let steam escape. I thought I'd closed it earlier. I didn't check again. That small, forgetful moment changed everything. When I woke up a few hours later, I didn't know why at first. The digital clock on my nightstand read 3:07 a.m. I lay there in the dark, eyes half open, trying to figure out what had disturbed my sleep. Then I heard it, a faint sound, like the soft creak of a floorboard. I froze. My first thought was that it might be the house settling or maybe the wind. But then I heard something else, a dragging sound, light but deliberate, like someone's foot brushing the wooden floor. My heart thudded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I strained my ears, holding my breath. Silence. Then another sound, closer this time. Someone was in my house. At first, I wanted to believe it was my imagination. Maybe it was a raccoon or some animal that had sneaked in through the open door. I told myself that as I slowly reached for my phone on the nightstand. But when I tapped the screen, the dim glow illuminated the edge of my room, and I saw it. The shadow of a person standing in the hallway. I froze completely. The shape didn't move at first, but I could tell it wasn't a trick of the light. Someone was there, standing still, watching. My body went cold all over. I didn't know what to do. Calling the police seemed impossible. Any sound might alert whoever it was that I was awake. I tried to stay calm, my mind racing for a plan. That's when the floor creaked again, and the figure took a slow step forward. My body moved on instinct. I rolled silently off the other side of the bed and crouched down behind it, heart pounding in my ears. I tried to think. My window was only a few feet away, but it was old and loud to open. The door to the hallway was closer, but it led toward the intruder. I could hear the faint sound of breathing now. Then, the sound of footsteps retreating, soft, deliberate, moving back toward the living room. That's when I made my move. I crept toward the bedroom door, as quietly as I could, and reached for it. The hinges squeaked faintly, just enough to make my stomach drop, but I slipped out and grabbed my phone, which I'd left on silent. I dialed 911 and whispered, barely audible, "Someone's in my house." The operator's calm voice was the only thing keeping me grounded as she told me to stay hidden, lock myself somewhere safe if I could, and wait for officers to arrive. I hid inside my closet, the door cracked just enough for me to see the bedroom through the slats. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the phone steady. Minutes felt like hours. Then, I heard the sound again, footsteps returning. Slow, unhurried, as if the person knew they had time. I could see the faint outline of the intruder again as they stepped into my room. He was tall, definitely a man. He wore dark clothing and gloves, and though I couldn't see his face clearly, I caught the glint of something metallic in his hand, a flashlight, maybe a tool. He walked to my dresser and began opening drawers, rifling through them. I wanted to scream, but fear kept my throat locked. He took his time, moving things around, occasionally pausing to listen. I could hear the faint hum of the police radio on my phone still open, the dispatcher quietly reassuring me that officers were on the way. I prayed he wouldn't hear it. Then the intruder moved toward my bed. He crouched, looked underneath, and for a horrifying second, I thought he'd hear my breathing. That's when I saw the flashing red and blue lights outside through the crack of my closet door. Relief flooded through me. The man noticed too. He straightened suddenly, turned, and bolted down the hallway. I heard the back door slam. The next moments were a blur. The officers came in, sweeping the house with flashlights and guns drawn. They found the back door wide open, the latch hanging loose. He was gone. When they finally told me it was safe to come out, my legs gave out beneath me. One of the officers, a kind woman named Officer Reynolds, helped me sit down and brought me water. I could barely talk. They searched the house but didn't find anything except muddy footprints leading from the backyard into the kitchen. The prints stopped near the hallway, where the man must have stood watching me. That detail haunted me more than anything else, that he had stood there, silently, in the dark, watching me sleep. For days after, I couldn't close my eyes without seeing that shadow in the doorway. I replayed every moment, wondering how I could have been so careless. All because I forgot to close one door. The police came back later that week with news. They'd caught someone trying to break into another house a few blocks away, a man named Derek Shaw, a local drifter with a long record of burglary and trespassing. When they searched his backpack, they found jewelry, watches, and a small flashlight. Among the items was one of my earrings, the one that had been on my dresser. They said he hadn't been armed, just desperate. But that didn't comfort me much. The thought that someone could have hurt me, that they had walked into my home so easily, left me shaken for months. I changed everything after that night. New locks, new doors, even motion sensors. I moved my bed away from the window and adopted a dog, a big German shepherd I named Ranger. He sleeps by the door every night. I sleep better now, but not quite the same. Sometimes, even now, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and think I hear something, a creak, a step, a breath. My heart still jumps, but then I look at Ranger, calm and watchful, and I remind myself I'm safe. What haunts me most isn't the man himself, it's how close it came to something worse. How one small moment of forgetfulness could have changed my life forever. So now, every night before I go to bed, I check the doors. Twice, sometimes 3 times. I make sure they're locked, latched, sealed tight. Because once you've seen that shadow standing in your doorway, once you've heard those silent footsteps in your home, you never forget what it feels like to be watched in the dark. And every creak, every whisper of wind after midnight, reminds you of that one night you forgot to close the door.